Hi, everyone, and welcome. So, thank you for joining us for today's training, Getting Started, Understanding NYC Procurement Methods. This is our 10th webinar in a series of passport vendor trainings. So, today we'll begin by talking about MOCS and its purpose. Then we'll talk about procurement in general and then break down the people, the process, methods, and the use of passport in city procurement. Finally, we'll review the MOCS website and the resources you can find there. So a little overview, the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, also known as MOCS, leads procurement for NYC and serves as an oversight and service agency dedicated to making it easier to do business with the city. So let's begin with a little overview. What is procurement and why is it important? Procurement is the way city agencies get the goods and services they need to fulfill their missions. Vendors are an important part of procurement as they sell needed goods and services to the city of New York. Doing so can help them grow their business. So, who is involved? Procurement in New York City involves at least three parties: the city agency, the vendor, and MOCS. City agencies are government divisions, departments, and related organizations that are funded by the City of New York's Treasury. Procurement-wise, city agencies buy needed goods and services from vendors to fulfill their missions and function effectively. The City of New York procures more than $20 billion of goods and services every year from outside contractors. Vendors are contractors who provide goods and services to the City of New York. These contractors include a diverse pool of organizations in a wide range of industries. Some vendors are signal proprietors, while others are multinational corporations. Procurement involves the selection of the right vendors to meet the agency's needs. And lastly, MOCS is a city agency, but it has a special mission regarding procurement. As we mentioned earlier, MOCS oversees the procurement process and helps to ensure that it is fair and legal. It uses Passport, a digital platform, to streamline the procurement process and help agencies and vendors work together. So let's take a more organized look at the procurement process. Some of you might be familiar with your path to contracting with the city, which goes over how vendors participate in the procurement process. But as you know, there are multiple parties involved. If you want to take a closer look at this pathway, it's on our MOCS website, which we'll talk about towards the end of our presentation. As we talk our way through the general outline of the procurement process, please note the color coding. So the blue boxes represents the steps led by city agencies, and the green box is for the green color is for vendors. The comptroller office is represented in orange. So MOCS oversees the process and the passport work stream, so they will be represented by the purple arrow. So let me say that part again. The blue boxes is city agency, green is vendor, the comptroller's office is in orange, and then when you see the purple arrows, that is MOCS. So it all begins when an agency identifies a need for a good or service. They release a solicitation, often referred to as an RFX, that invites vendors to respond to the need. Vendors have a variety of ways to find solicitations, and when they see one that fits their capabilities and interests, they can acknowledge and respond to the solicitation. After a set period, solicitations are closed and agencies look through the responses they've received. They then choose the vendor that best fits their need. The contract is then awarded to the chosen vendor. And once a vendor has been chosen, they complete additional award tasks and submit requested documentation. Both the vendor and the agency needs to review the contract and all the submissions thoroughly. The contract is then signed by all relevant parties and submitted to the Comptroller's office for registration. The Comptroller then registers the contract, and then the vendor can begin their work. Then the vendor completes their work and the agency pays them. So now many of these steps have several sub-steps and caveats, but this gives a general idea of how the process usually works. Now that we've reviewed the process, let's discuss the ways or methods of making procurement happen. Karen will go over the most common with you. Take it away, Karen.
Thanks, Kiana. All right, so procurement can be complicated, and it helps to know the factors that determine how it happens. All right, so normally there are 5 factors that city agencies consider when they're determining what procurement method to use. Agencies can't just buy goods and services the way private citizens do. There are several laws and rules that govern the way agencies procure. In addition to those local laws and those laid out in the New York City Charter, agencies must also comply with the rules laid out by the Procurement Policy Board, or PPB. The PPB oversees city procurement of goods, services, and construction. Additionally, New York City local laws and PPB rules must also align with state and federal procurement laws. Some procurement methods are only for specific industry categories. Often, health and human service procurement is a different category than the procurement of goods or constructions. Think about the way that you procure things. As much as we'd all like one-stop shopping, you probably would not want to depend on your local grocery store to provide you with a physical therapist. There's also the anticipated level of competition. RFX are usually either competitive or non-competitive. Agencies must also think about the dollar value of the procurement. Many procurement methods have a specific dollar value minimum or maximum that prevents use outside of those limits. And agencies also need to consider the timing of the goods or services needed. Some procurements can take over 6 months to finalize, while others have a shorter time frame. Agencies will need to consider how soon something is needed when they plan to procure. They also need to think about if their need meets the criteria required to use a shorter procurement method. So when agencies identify their needs for a good or service, they can procure from 6 specific industries. Vendors who wish to provide those goods and services that fall into these categories should enroll in related commodities through Passport. The NYC Commodity Classification Directory is available on the MOCS website, which we'll talk about later. But for now, let's learn more about the goods and services that city agencies procure. There's architecture and engineering. This includes contracts to hire licensed architects or professional engineers to prepare plans and specifications for construction projects. This category does not include construction management, build contracts, or the preparation of environmental studies. Goods. Goods includes purchases of physical items, including but not limited to equipment and materials. It does not, however, include land or a permanent interest in land. Then we have construction. Construction services provide for the construction, renovation, improvement, demolition, and excavation of physical structures. This category also includes trade work such as painting, carpentry, plumbing, electrical installation, and asbestos and lead abatement. It does not include the performance of routine maintenance. Human services. These organizations provide services directly to third-party clients. This category includes social services such as housing and shelter assistance, counseling services, education, employment training and assistance, health and medical services, and other similar services. Professional services. I feel like I'm saying services a lot. These services require that the provider possess specialized skills, including the holding of advanced degrees and exercising independent judgment. This includes a wide range of professionals, including accountants, lawyers, computer programmers, and an array of consulting services, including medical, information technology, and management consulting. And finally, standardized services. Standardized services do not typically require a provider to have an advanced degree. Examples of standardized services include security services, as well as janitorial, secretarial, transportation, and food-related services. Routine maintenance and repair not related to new construction, such as plumbing, electrical, and HVAC work, also fall into this category. So there are two major classes of RFX: competitive and non-competitive. In general, competitive solicitations are publicly available requests for bids and proposals. You can find competitive RFX posted to the Procurement Navigator and the City Record online, but you don't need a Passport account to access them. However, if you want to respond to those RFX, you do need a Passport account. Non-competitive solicitations are invitation only and are normally not posted publicly. They usually have a specific list of vendors who can respond to them. RFX are also given a reference number called an EPIN that allows you to search and track the specific RFX. This is important if you want to keep track of an opportunity and check on its status. When there is a solicitation, the procurement status shows the phases that the solicitation and passport goes through. Knowing an RFX's procurement status helps you know how to proceed. There are 5 possibilities. Planned. That means the RFX is still in the planning stages. It may or may not actually be released. Released. That means the RFX is open for response submissions. Responses received. That means the agency has closed the RFX and submissions are no longer being accepted. Selections made. The agency has selected vendors for contract awards. And closed. That means the contract actions have been completed and the solicitation process has ended. Now, there are many possible procurement methods, but we're going to go over the 4 most common today, beginning with competitive sealed bids. Competitive sealed bids seek out the lowest price offered by a responsive and responsible vendor. A responsible vendor has shown that they are capable of performing and completing the work. A responsive vendor has met all the requirements and submitted all the information requested by the agency. These opportunities are posted publicly. Interested vendors submit sealed bids via Passport, which means that neither the agency nor their competitors know anything other than the price until the bidding is closed. CSBs are the most frequently used procurement method for goods construction and standardized services. CSBs are not allowed to be used for health and human service contracts. For competitive sealed proposals or requests for proposals, also known as RFPs, agencies look beyond the lowest price and consider things such as the vendor's experience, organizational capability, and approach. RFPs also involve an evaluation committee that scores all the proposals according to how well they meet the criteria. RFPs are most often used to procure architectural and engineering services, human services, and professional services. The city also uses two non-competitive methods to provide procurement opportunities to MWBEs. MWBE stands for Minority or Women-Owned Business Enterprises. These methods are the MWBE Non-Competitive Small Purchase Method and the MWBE Non-Competitive Innovative Method. Both methods allow agencies to award contracts for goods, professional services, standard services, and construction to MWBEs. These methods are not allowed to be used for human service contracts, though. The big difference between them lies in the dollar value of these methods. The MWBE non-competitive small purchase contract must have a value between $20,001 and $500,000. If the contract is for construction, then its value should begin at $35,001. The MWBE non-competitive innovative method has a contract value limit between $500,001 and $1 million.
Thanks, Karen. As we've discussed, vendors are a necessary part of procurement, so it's important that they know their options for getting information about it. There are several ways that prospective vendors can find contracting opportunities with New York City. Vendors can use Passport to find solicitations by maintaining contacts in your vendor profile so that those with the vendor admin or vendor procurement user roles can receive email notifications. Browsing public RFX for contracting opportunities, or browsing non-competitive RFX that they have been invited to based on their business certifications and enrolled commodities. Vendors interested in health and human service solicitations must be pre-qualified in Passport to be eligible to respond to HHS RFX. There are several resources on these topics available on the MOCS website, webinars, guides, and more. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Outside of passports, vendors can find public RFX using the Procurement Navigator on the MOCS website. They can also visit the city record online for opportunities valued at over $100,000 and sign up to get email notifications about those as well. Some agencies also post procurement opportunities on their websites or organize procurement fairs and similar events. Once vendors find these opportunities, they should make note of the requirements so that they can respond appropriately. These responses take place within Passport, so let's take a deeper look at that. Before I continue, here's a disclaimer. The screenshots displayed in this presentation reflect the current state of Passport at the time of this presentation. Keep in mind that in the future, Passport may look different. There are two ways you can find RFX in Passport. From any page, click RFX in the top navigation menu and, and view two drop-down menu options. Browse My RFX Responses and Browse Public RFX. The first option in the drop-down menu, Browse My RFX Responses, displays RFX to which an agency has invited your organization to respond. Those are RFX that are not publicly published. An example would be a solicitation using an MWBE small purchase method. For these types of solicitations, vendors who are invited to participate will see the invitation listed in the Browse My RFX Responses area. Typically, passport notifications are sent via email to vendor contacts identified in your passport vendor profile. The Browse Public RFX page, the second option in the drop-down menu, displays all RFX that were posted publicly. We highly recommend that you make it a routine to check both browsing pages on a regular basis. The search fields in the Browse RFX screen are your friends. You can also search by keyword, EPIN, agency, commodity, and more. Do not overfilter. It is best to be as inclusive as possible so you don't miss opportunities. Applying just one or two filters should already give you enough good results. Note that the results show you the procurement method being used. To view the RFX itself, click the pencil icon. And now I'll share some best practices and reminders for vendors who want to participate in city procurement. Make sure your organization is getting email notifications from Passport and the city record online. Add both of them as safe addresses to prevent opportunities from ending up in your spam or junk mail folder. Set aside time every week to visit the Browse Public RFX and Browse My RFX tabs in Passport. Enroll in commodities so that it is easier to connect with appropriate RFX. Attend webinars, workshops, and procurement events so that you can communicate your interest and learn about opportunities. MWBEs should become City Certified MWBEs and maintain that certification. Similarly, prospective vendors in the health and human services field should get and maintain HHS pre-qualification. So this was a lot of information. So here are some additional resources that you can use to get help and navigate Passport. We have several resources to help you on your path to contracting with New York City. Check out our website at nyc.gov/passport, our Eventbrite page, and our monthly newsletter. For all things passport related, please visit nyc.gov/passport. We've recently redesigned our website, so some things may have shifted from what you're used to. Be sure to clear your cache and update your bookmarks. To learn how to use Passport, we have several resources such as guides, videos, and more. You can access Passport resources by clicking on the Learn Passport link in the header. From there, you'll be brought to our Learning to Use Passport page. If you're just getting started on your path to contracting with New York City, we have a page just for you. Visit nyc.gov/passport, click on the Opportunities tab in the top navigation menu, and you'll be brought to our Getting Started page. This page is helpful if you'd like to figure out your next steps. You can also scroll down this page to see information about enrolling in commodities and the New York City directory that we mentioned earlier. Still have questions or need help navigating Passport? Check out our MOCS help page by visiting nyc.gov/MOCShelp. To submit an inquiry to the MOCS Service Desk, click the link at the bottom of the page. We host several free trainings and events to help businesses on their path to contracting with New York City. We encourage you to attend live webinars in our Getting Started series or check out the in-person workshops in our MOCS in Your Neighborhood series. Our next in-person workshop is on June 14th. The MOCS team will be in Staten Island to help vendors and prospective vendors find contracting opportunities for their businesses. You can learn more information and register for all of our trainings by visiting mocsvendortraining.eventbrite.com. And finally, our newsletter for vendors, Contracting News, comes out monthly. Inside, you'll get the latest news about contracting, including our newest MOCS initiatives, special notices for vendors, and more. Want to get our vendor newsletter? Make sure that your contacts are up to date within your organization's Passport vendor profile. Thank you for your time. Good luck to you, and remember to fill out the survey so that we can make our events and webinars more relevant to you. Take care, and goodbye.